and welcome to A Woman's Heart. I'm looking forward to this conversation today. We have Mandy Horne with us. Welcome to A Woman's Heart, Mandy.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You are very
Mm.
welcome. Very welcome. We have been communicating back and forth through email, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. And as I mentioned, I always like to get to know my guest and let my audience get to know them. So tell us a little bit about yourself and something fun that isn't normally in your bio.
Okay, so I've been married for 25 years. We have two kiddos, 22 and 19, and we homeschooled them from my son from first grade up, my daughter third grade up. So
Okay.
that's a huge step to get through that, something we never imagined we would do. We never dreamed of homeschooling, but we did.
Yes.
And yeah, so we've been in ministry in various forms and fashions throughout our entire marriage. And this is where God has us now, moved us to Indiana from Texas. So
Oh,
not
wow.
somewhere we would have ever imagined. But
No, going from
yeah,
Texas to Indiana would be quite the move.
yes, yes, definitely. So let's see, something about me. I'm trying to think.
I'm sure there's something fun.
Oh yeah, something fun. I don't know about fun. That's more
Oh,
pressure.
unique. Oh, that's more
Let's
pressure.
see.
Okay, something unique,
We
different.
got, my husband and I got engaged 4 months after we met.
Oh,
Um, so that was
okay.
pretty quick. Uh,
Yes,
Something people tease me about right now is I don't have a car. I haven't had a car for quite a long time, but I
that's
don't,
different.
yeah, I just financially haven't gotten one and I hardly ever get out to drive. So I'm like, why spend the money on something I won't use very often? But
Well,
yeah.
okay. Then there you go. There you go. You're not the only one. I have a car, but that is a little different. And 4 months. Wow. That was really quick. And obviously, though, it worked out.
Great. Yeah.
Yes. Well, that is a lot of fun. And you have done a wide variety of things throughout your life. We'll probably get to some more of those a little later. But first of all, I would love for you to tell us, what are you hoping someone will get out of our conversation? If they listen to the whole thing, what are you hoping they get from it?
Oh, just the most important thing I feel like is learning to lean into God, learning to hear his voice and to take those obedient next steps and or surrender, is what I often say, is knowing that he is a good God, a good father, and if you trust him, he will take care of it. He'll give you the direction to take.
Yeah, yes, he will. And even when things don't always turn out the way we like, because
Yes.
I know for me, I frequently will have a very pretty picture that I've painted in my mind of what I want my life to look like, or as a mom, what I want my children's life to look like. And I have noticed a pattern that God doesn't always go along with my pretty picture. And it can be very upsetting. So, so share about some of those times when you may have had a nice, pretty picture of what you wanted, and then it didn't turn out that way.
The thing that probably stands out, there's been a ton of those, by the
Yeah.
way, but the one that first came to my mind was my dream through all of, childhood and teenager and all that was all I wanted to do was to be a mom, to have my own kids. I wanted to have tons of kids and loved babies. Well, fast forward to when I was 19, a freshman in college. There's a whole other story with that, but I ended up having open heart surgery,
Oh,
three actually, in the summer of 96. So I'm about to hit my 30-year anniversary. And it was the moment when they were like, you may not be able to have kids.
oh,
Because you'll be on blood thinners. It can be really dangerous for babies,
yeah.
those kind of things.
Mhm.
And that was just heartbreaking. I mean, that was all that I cared about. Yeah, I
Oh my
had
gosh.
maybe some career dreams, but not so much. Really, I just wanted to be a mom. And fast forward, I did. I did have one biological and we adopted another, but
Okay.
that was not the story that not at all what my plans were. So
Yeah, no,
yeah.
and that had to be, especially at a young age when you
Yeah.
haven't had any. I mean, that's just
Mhm.
devastating. And then you're probably, I would imagine, one of the thoughts is who would want to marry someone who
Yeah.
can't? And,
Yeah.
that may affect your lifeline
Yeah.
time partner and your spouse and going forward with all of that.
Yeah.
What were some of the lessons that looking back now, you have the privilege of looking at it from hindsight. What were some of
Yeah.
the lessons that you think you learned going through that season?
Oh, for that season, that was like the biggest transformational time for me.
Hmm.
I was a believer, but had only been a believer for a short period of time, but was very strong in my walk. I got distracted by a guy, of course, that came in that, started dating. I was a private school girl and I met this public school kid. And so it
Oh
was just
yeah.
like, ooh, like this public school boy.
Oh yes. Oh
And
no.
it was all different and it was not a healthy relationship at all. But
Mm,
I got just so swooned in that and swept away by all those little things and I really know that I knew for before I even met him that God had something unique planned, which he does for all of us.
yeah.
But I had surrendered to that. I knew that there was something specific that God wanted to use for me for in my life. And I was totally running from that kind of a Job thing. Just nope, nope, not now,
Yeah.
nope. And so, long story short, I just truly believe like I'm very hard-headed, and I think God has a lot of humor with it sometimes, and He has had to take me through some really difficult things to get my attention because that's what it
Mhm.
takes to for me to stop and listen again. So I look back, I don't think if that had happened, I would have never left that relationship.
Mm, okay.
I was a pharmacy major at that time. Nursing had been on my mind a few times, but through that experience, I ended up becoming a nurse and knew that that was a very clear calling that the Lord
Mhm.
called on me while there in the hospital. It was pretty amazing. And all these things that would not have happened had I not gone through that. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a short version.
Yeah, well, and there's still plenty in that as
Yes.
far as how he was able to
Yeah.
use that. And I it's in the middle of it though, it's really kind of hard. And you've had several transitions where, well, you thought you wanted one thing, and then you had this experience with the open heart surgery and go, oh no, very, very different direction now. Well, not very, it's still kind of medical, pharmacy into nursing, but a different direction. And one of the things that you like to do is to help women that are in the middle of those transitions. And what are some of the things that you have noticed is very common when we think we have one purpose and then all of a sudden we're going, wait a minute, maybe not anymore. There's a new one. What are some of those common themes that you have noticed as you're coaching people or have gone through yourself that are really difficult in the middle of it when we're kind of wrestling out, okay, maybe I thought I knew my purpose, maybe I've never known my purpose, but how do I figure that out?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is, and it's not just this, I focus on midlife season, but I know it's all of our life throughout our
Oh yeah.
whole walk,
Oh yeah.
with the Lord, is how do we know when God is clearly telling us to do something and it's or versus just our idea, our hope, our dream. How do I
Yeah.
know where his calling is? And so, really digging into that and learning how to hear the voice of God, learning how, and it's not what we want, I mean, I think everyone knows it's not that audible voice and it's not writing on
No,
the wall or anything clear for us.
no, I've
So,
asked them for
that's
emails every now and again.
frustrating.
I'm like, if you can part the sea, can't you just
Yes.
shoot me an email?
Yes. Oh my goodness. But I know as we grow in our walk with Christ and we grow closer to Him, we spend time with Him, we listen to Him, we know His voice. And you've probably heard that, say you're in a relationship with somebody, you're not going to know them unless you spend time with them, or you're
Yeah.
not going to know them the way that you should, or be able to recognize them.
Yeah.
Whereas, you've been married for so long, you know your husband's voice, you know his laugh, his cough, you know all those little things, those sounds that they make.
Yeah.
So the more time you spend with the Father, the Heavenly Father, like you learn to know those nudges, those callings, those sensations, those things that He brings into your path. You start having repetition, He brings other people, mentors, and alongside you that kind of confirm those things that you are praying about or feel the Lord laying on your heart.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't want to go too in depth. You tell me.
Well, no, and it's interesting because as a nurse, he led you into nursing, and then there was the time that you're not in nursing anymore, and so there, like we said, you can listen, and then you're in there, and you're going, wait a minute, how do we know that like one season's closing and you're going into the next one?
Yeah, from my own experience and from a lot of obviously the ladies I've worked with, like the Lord uses all of those seasons
Hmm.
to prepare you for the next. And you go through certain things, you're sure, and you put full force in and trust the Lord through that season. And then all of a sudden, something else comes in your path that might be laid on your heart. Maybe it was something that was kind of there just a little bit at
Hmm.
one point when you were younger or something like that, and you just kind of, let that thought go or whatever. But the Lord is most of the time when we look back, we can see how the Lord was slowly stirring in our heart, how
Yeah.
that thing was slowly starting to form, and how he was starting to really make it a passion, something that for you, and that I love that. I
Yeah.
love that part of a passion for each person because we're all different, but we're a part of the body of Christ, and the Lord has something different for each of us, but it's needed. We all work together in different ways to serve Him. So,
Yeah, yeah, he does. He works all of that out. And one of the things that I was thinking of is when we have put our heart and soul, you talked about, you just really put your heart and soul in something. And then all of a sudden there's like this, I don't know. I tend to think sometimes, and maybe it's just me, there's that sense of, well, maybe I failed, maybe I got it
mm,
wrong. Well, now that I've put all of this energy into this, well, I can't go do something else because I've put all of this into here. Like you've gone to school and gotten a degree in something, and then you halfway through, you go, I don't like this. I don't like this, but you feel like you have to finish it.
yeah,
So, how do you maybe talk somebody through? It's not, without feeling that sense of failure or feeling like it's been a waste of time or a
mm,
waste of resources, but that God can still use all of that and that we don't need to stay
right.
stuck in something that we feel we're maybe not comfortable in, but let go of those feelings of any shame or failure or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. So I think the example that came to my mind immediately was thinking my husband. God moved us in 2011 from Texas to Indiana, a
Mhm.
place that I was like, wait, I have to look on the map again. Where's Indiana? I never heard of that.
In the middle of
Besides
the
some
country.
song I memorized when I was younger. But yeah, God moved us here, and he was in a at a church. He was an elementary pastor for like 7 years, and then the Lord called him to chaplaincy, something that he could do anywhere. And so we thought, okay, well, why did you move us here? Why did you take us through all that, the things at the church and build all this stuff up and just to call him somewhere else? And there was a lot of reflection, a lot of time in prayer.
Mhm.
There was some church hurt along the way with some of that, I'll just say. And we
Yeah.
could have easily, for we could have easily just walked away from church because there was some upset times, some things
Yeah.
that we didn't agree with. And instead, we together as a family started praying through what is God leading us to. We're not abandoning God. That is human. The church is made of people
Yeah.
that hurt
Mhm.
us, and
Yeah.
it's okay. We're all human, and we all do those things. But
Yeah.
we looked back reflecting on all the different areas of ministry or different things that we had been through and how God prepared my husband for this role that he loves. I mean, he is just passionate and it's been amazing. And
Wow. Wow.
if he had not been through those other areas, he wouldn't be prepared or able to do what he's doing now.
Hmm.
And that's the same thing, I think, in my life. All these things I went through, like I have that nursing background. I learned how to communicate with women, how to listen to them, how to hear their hearts. And then I can help with not just that spiritual side, but the physical, emotional, all of those areas, if needed, depending on where they're at, because I have that nursing
Mhm.
background.
Yeah.
So he uses all those little seasons and details and the hard times and the joyful times. He uses it
Yeah.
all. So
Well, that was you mentioned the difficult times, and when I asked the question, what are you passionate about sharing? One of the
mm,
things that you did say was through it all, God has continued to grow our faith instead of allowing pain to destroy
mm,
it. And
yeah,
sadly, too many times we go through a difficult time or a painful time or a hurt church hurt,
mm,
which has become more of a, I never knew that
yeah,
term growing up. I mean, I knew that there were things that hurt in church or whatever, but that was
right.
a phrase that was more commonly used. That sometimes it can really derail not just our faith in people, but our faith in God. And how do you, I guess, maintain the difference? Like you said, the church is people, and people frequently, always at some point, will mess up.
Yeah.
And so, how do you then turn around and then have keep your faith in God throughout that instead of staying stuck in the pain and the hurt?
Yeah, I think for us, it was, well, obviously we had been in ministry for years and God had very clearly called us to serve in different areas. But we had that personal relationship with the Lord, individually, like me and my
Yeah,
husband on his own, and then together as a couple, and then as a family, with our kids in there. And so we had that relationship, and we knew that we had seen God's hand on our lives in so many other ways.
yeah,
And we knew that it did, when you first go through those things, anything, majority of the time you don't really see God's hand in it. You just kind of see the heartbreak, the all the trauma or whatever it is you're going through. But as a believer, as you just trust and you know that the Lord is going to work it out and going to use it, it gives you that peace and that hope as you go through those things. And
yeah.
so when you go through another thing and you look back and you see God's hand was there, He never left me during that season. He's not going to leave me now. And He's doing something, He's going to do something good. And I think we, as now, especially that we're older and we've had, I think I'm older. I still have a hard time thinking that I'm
You just
older.
have a little bit more life experience. There we go.
Yes. But you have those years to reflect back and just see that so many people have hurt you. I mean, I've been hurt by so many people,
Hmm.
even Christians. In
Yeah.
fact, majority other Christians. And I think as much as I don't want to say it, I know that I've hurt people too, because we're human and we don't, yeah, we just I say we don't know any better, but
Yeah,
sometimes we
we
don't
mess up.
don't know what we're doing. Yeah, maybe at the moment we don't realize that that
Yeah.
word you say is going to be hurtful for someone else or things like that. And it's harder and harder, I feel like, as the years go, that our times and everything's social media now. So that's
Oh
a whole
yeah.
mess. That's
Oh
another
yeah,
story, but
that's another whole topic
yeah.
in and of itself. And I know
Yeah.
frequently that I've read over and over that a lot of times the hurt happens because
Mhm.
of people, but that's also where the healing begins. That
Yes,
if we
exactly.
throw up the wall so high to try to
Yeah.
protect ourselves, which that is our brain's natural
Mhm.
go-to. I mean, our brain is wired to protect
Yeah.
us. So if we have been hurt, our brain wants to do what it can to protect us from being hurt. And
Right.
emotional hurt will light up the
Mhm.
same centers in our
Mhm.
brain as like a break in your arm or your leg. I mean, it's the
Yeah.
same, some of those same places in our brain, even though, so that emotional hurt can be just as painful.
Oh
You
yeah.
just can't put a splint on it.
Yes. So
Which
true.
sometimes that would be easier. But
Right.
so it's very risky at times
Mhm.
to risk being hurt again, but that's also where we experience the healing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Amen.
with that. So it's very risky as far as doing that. And what are some of the other things when you are talking with women about going through transitions? What are some of the things that you have them look at with past skills or passions and desires to kind of help wade through that getting through on the other side?
Yeah. So often just always inviting the Holy Spirit and the Lord into everything that they do. And so if they don't have that, most have a walk with Christ, but if they don't, or they don't know how to spend time in the Word or how to pray or to worship or any of those things, we go through those things because I feel like
Hmm.
that's foundational for absolutely anything
Yeah.
that we go through in life. And so we walk through that. But then learning to listen and reflect, what things has the Lord laid on your heart? What are dreams, desires that you've had over the years? What are some maybe a burden that you had for something or people, whatever it could be. It could
Hmm.
be a thing or for a group of people, just an ache and a nudge that kept being repeated over the years through your life. You've seen this. And why? Why do you think that situation keeps coming up for you and maybe not someone else? And praying over that and
Hmm.
praying, you know, sit with it, pray on it. And what's really exciting is most of the time, and it may not be that situation specifically, but the Lord will start to lay something on their heart. They'll start to just have a passion, have a vision. Oftentimes they realize they had that for years, but they dismissed it.
Yeah.
Especially for midlife women, they were so busy. Most of us are so busy in that motherhood season
Yeah.
that a lot of things just get pushed back, that you just kind of ignore, and which was probably appropriate. That was a season
Yeah. That was
for
the
for
season.
mothering, parenting. But the Lord, with the humor there is that He had those things that laid on your heart over the years. You pushed them back, and now you realize, oh, my life isn't over because my kids are gone. That role is over or whatever.
Hmm.
He has something else for me. What does he have for me to do? And where is that heart and passion and burden that the Lord wants to bring up to light and use me for?
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I'm thinking too, it can be nerve-wracking and terrifying
Mhm.
and exciting
Oh,
to
yeah.
then maybe experiment and try and go, you know what? I'm not really sure what it is I want to do, but that looks
Yes.
interesting. I'll try that.
Yes.
And you may go, okay, now that I've tried it, there have been a few things that
Yeah.
have been suggested that I try, and I tried them, and I realized that I'm not good at them and I don't
Right.
like them and I should not do them. It's just not good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then you try something else and you go, oh, well, I do like that. And so you work at that. And so many times I hear the whole, if you want to know what your purpose is, I remember hearing from somewhere, love God and love people. And I'm like,
Mm.
that's great. I love that idea. And yet, exactly how does that look tomorrow morning when I am planning my day and looking at my calendar and thinking about something? But just that the idea of that bloom where you're planted, if you're in that season, I just think there's a lot of value in stepping out and trying out different things and experimenting and seeing what you want and really exploring the opportunities that come up and what you want to say yes to and what you don't want to say. So
Yeah.
I don't know, am I completely off the mark or is that something that's valuable?
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely valuable. Yeah, find just honestly just going before the Lord and asking Him, is this from you? Should I do this? Do you feel just like people kept pushing me to become a nurse practitioner and it just made me sick, like the thought of
Oh,
it. And I just knew like that is not where the Lord's calling me to. But then I just kept hearing, I was like, you know what? I finally had to say that's not of the Lord.
yeah.
But praying through it, asking the Lord, is this where you want me to go next? And
Hmm.
then when you have a little bit of peace, we're gonna be terrified probably to take
Yeah.
that
The
next step.
unknown is scary.
Yeah. Yeah, and we want the whole picture in front of us. We want to know the whole map in front of us of how it's all going to turn out and how is this coaching going to work? How am I going to do all this? It is I did not have the whole roadmap ahead of me. It's been
Mhm.
like one step at a time
Yeah.
and other things have opened up. If you had said I'd be on a podcast or things like that a couple years ago, I would have thought you're crazy because I was not going to do that. But the Lord, he has humor in that too. But
Yes.
yes.
Yes. It
One obedient step.
Yes, one obedient step. I think it was Eugene Peterson that said obedience
Mm,
is or something about it's obedience, a long step of obedience in the same direction is being faithful.
Mm.
I think it's
Yeah.
something along those lines, and that it can. And he so often has a sense of humor. The number of people that I have spoken to that are in the middle of doing something, or they've written a book, and they would argue
Mhm.
with God for years. I'll do
Yes.
anything you want, just don't make me write a book. And that's like exactly what he had them do. So
Yes. Yes. So true.
he tends to challenge us in those areas that we want to go, okay, Lord, just don't do anything, just don't make me do this. And that's kind
Yeah.
of almost like the challenge accepted
Mm.
from from God to go, oh,
So
okay,
true.
watch this then.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, what are some of those things that women frequently are surprised with? During the transition season. They may know a transition is coming up. So, like as a stay-at-home mom,
Yeah.
I knew that, well, you don't always know, but I assumed that my children would grow up and then they would go in and eventually I would have an empty nest.
Mm.
But then there were some things that once I got there, I was like, oh, I didn't expect this. What are some of those things that you frequently find women, even if they know a transition is coming and they know they're going to have a new season in life, that they still somehow are surprised about?
I think the biggest thing that I've seen, and even that I experienced myself, was honestly grief, where it's supposed to be a season of joy, and especially for the empty nest type situation
Yeah.
of excitement. My kids are grown, I was successful or whatever. And it's not always perfect like that.
Yeah.
Like I have a son with autism who hasn't had the perfect, like, jump into college and all that stuff. So
Mhm.
it's different for everyone. But I have found just a lot of women just have a season of just grief, of grieving those roles changing, that season being over, and they didn't expect that. And it's kind of a
Yeah.
mixture. There's a
Mhm.
mixture of joy, but a lot of grief. A lot of just I I don't want that to be over. I didn't do what I thought I was going to do. So a lot of season of doubting, reflecting back, in unhealthy ways
Mhm.
and wishing they had done this or that differently and stuff, and not just taking that next step forward.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. No, I can definitely see that grief would be one of those things that surprises people because even if you're looking forward to a season, then you kind of have to let go of something else in order to
Mm-hmm.
get that, and you may very much
Yeah.
grieve the other season. So I can see where that would be a very common thing. Well,
Yeah.
as you know, one of the things that I always like to ask at the end of my show, and this is right in your wheelhouse, is what would you say to encourage someone? They have maybe waited through all that transition, they figured out what direction they want to go. What would you say to encourage them to actually pursue it? Because then there's the courage to actually pursue that passion that God has placed in their heart.
Yeah. I would say to not dismiss the desire that God keeps bringing back to your heart, like repeatedly. That passion, the vision, the burden that you feel on your heart for whatever situation or people group or whatever. And yeah, don't ignore it. Pay attention. Listen. Ask the Lord, like, is this from you? What do you want me to do next? Yeah.
Yeah, very good. And yeah, and then taking those, I just think of like taking the next baby steps because as you
Hmm.
mentioned earlier, we so often want to, God to say, okay, this is what your purpose is going to be, and this is the entire blueprint. And that is so not what happens. It's like, no,
Yeah.
this is what it is. So take this very next step. And Mandy, you have some great resources that will definitely be going out to
Yeah.
help people with that. And what is the best way for people to connect with you for coaching, speaking, whatever resources that you have so that they can help determine what their purpose is and how they're going to go through their transitions.
Yeah, yeah. So my website is Wellspring of Life Nurse Coach, coaches, sorry. I always forgot to put coaches on
Okay.
there, .com. And that was the Lord just told me that it's going to grow. He has somebody else to bring. I don't know details on that. I just trust the Lord with the name. So
Okay. There you
yeah.
go. So plural it
Um,
is.
yeah. Wellspring of Life Nurse Coaches.com. Yeah. So,
Okay, very good. So we will include that in the show notes, and they can expect to hear from me about some resources of yours. And Mandy, thank you. Thank you
yeah.
for being willing to get through all of your transitions and go through all of that and keep going, and then helping to walk other women to discover what their purpose is and walk them through transitions. And thanks for spending time with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.